Dear reader, have you ever come across the words of Psalm 1:3? They paint such a vivid picture. He shall be like a tree planted by streams of water, which yields its fruit in its season. Its leaf does not wither, and whatever he does shall prosper. Have you ever stopped to think about what God meant with such a beautiful promise? Or what the story of someone who lived like this tree would be? Someone with deep roots and fruit that endures through time. Come with me, and let yourself be drawn into a story that might touch your heart and reveal what it means to flourish in God's presence, even when life feels like a desert. Helena's story. At 49 years old, Helena carried a calm presence that few truly understood. Those who saw her walking the cobbled streets of her small town in the countryside of Minas Gerais, with a shy smile and a wicker basket on her arm, couldn't imagine the storms she had already weathered. Her house, a modest structure with a well-tended garden, was a reflection of herself, simple but full of life. In one corner of her yard stood a robust jabuticaba tree, planted decades ago by her grandfather, telling the same story as Psalm 1:3, a story of firm roots, fruit in due season, and strength that does not falter. But Helena hadn't always been this way. In her youth, she dreamed big. She wanted to become a teacher, travel the world, and build a large family. But life, as it often does, had other plans. At 25, she married Marcos, a good-hearted man but with a volatile temperament. What began with promises of eternal love quickly faced strong headwinds. Marcos lost his job, fell into drinking, and arguments became as frequent as the overdue bills. Raised in a family of faith, Helena felt like a tree uprooted, desperately searching for something to sustain her. It was one desperate night at age 30 that Helena opened her late mother's Bible and landed on Psalm 1:3. The word struck her like a beam of light, a tree planted by streams of water whose leaves do not wither, bearing fruit in its season. "How, Lord?" she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "My life is dry. Where are these streams?" That night she prayed as she had never prayed before, begging God to help her find soil where she could take root. Roots by the streams. Helena realized she couldn't change Marcos, but she could change herself. She started attending a small neighborhood church where everyone knew each other by name and shared whatever they had: food, prayers, or hugs. There she met Donna Rosa, a 60-year-old widow who led the women's group. Rosa possessed a wisdom forged through years of hardship and a faith that seemed unshakable. "Helena," Rosa said one afternoon as they shared coffee, "the law of the Lord is like a river. If you plant yourself near it, your roots will find water, even during drought." Inspired, Helena committed herself to reading the Bible and praying. It wasn't magic. There were days when the words felt distant, and the pain of her marriage still weighed heavily. But little by little, she felt a new strength growing within her. She decided to go back to school, attending night classes after long days working as a cleaner. Each page she turned, each verse she read, was like another root sinking deeper into fertile soil. She began to picture herself as that tree in the psalm, drinking from the living water God provided. Fruit in due season. At 35, Helena graduated with her teaching certificate, a milestone celebrated with tears and a homemade cake from Donna Rosa. But life still brought its challenges. Despite a few efforts to change, Marcos couldn't overcome his addiction, and their marriage ended in divorce. Now alone with her young daughter Clara, Helena felt the heavy weight of solitude. "God, where are the fruits this psalm promises?" she would ask as she rocked Clara to sleep at night. But fruit, as the psalm says, comes in its season. Helena secured a job as a teaching assistant at a public school. It wasn't her dream role, but she loved being with the children, helping them learn to read and teaching them how to dream. Her patience and kindness quickly made her beloved in the school. Fellow teachers, most in their 40s and 50s, saw in Helena a quiet strength, as if she carried a secret that inspired them. "You seem so at peace, Helena," said her colleague Marcia, 52. "How do you manage that with so many struggles?" Helena smiled, thinking of the psalm. "It's not that I don't feel pain, Marcia. It's that I've learned to plant myself near God's river. The Bible, prayer, my church, that's my water. Without it, I would have withered long ago." Marcia, going through a recent divorce, asked to go to church with Helena. Little by little, Helena began bearing fruit, not only at work, but also in the lives of others. Leaves that do not wither. At 45, Helena faced yet another storm. Clara, now 14, began to rebel. Influenced by friends, she drifted away from her mother and from church, even saying harsh words. You live clinging to that Bible, Mum, but look at our life. We have nothing. Helena's heart ached, as if her carefully nurtured leaves were about to fall. But Psalm 1:3 promised that its leaves do not wither. Helena clung to that promise. Instead of arguing with Clara, she prayed. Instead of giving up, she showed love. One night, Clara came home crying after a fight with friends. Helena embraced her without judgment, and they talked until dawn. "Mom, how do you handle all of this?" Clara asked. Helena opened her Bible and read Psalm 1:3. "Because I'm not alone, my daughter. God is my river, and He keeps me standing." Little by little, Clara started drawing closer to her mother and back to her faith. Helena realized that her leaves, her hope, her patience, her trust in God had not withered, even in the storm. And that spoke louder to her daughter than any sermon ever could. Whatever He does shall prosper. Today, at 49, Helena is a full-time teacher at the school. Her classroom is a place of refuge where children from humble backgrounds find not only knowledge but love. She also co-leads a women's group at church alongside Donna Rosa, helping others find their own streams of living water. Her home, though simple, is always filled with laughter. Clara, now 18, is studying to become a nurse, surrounded by friends who have become family. Helena doesn't have material wealth, but her life is a testimony to true prosperity in the deepest sense. Her fruits are the lives she touches, the children she teaches to dream, the women who find strength in faith, the daughter who sees in her mother an example of resilience. The jabuticaba tree in her backyard, evergreen and bursting with fruit in the right season, stands as a daily reminder of the psalm, "Those who plant themselves in God will flourish, no matter the season." The meaning of Psalm 1-3 is both a promise and a powerful metaphor. It describes the destiny of the man or woman who chooses to live according to God's ways, as described in the earlier verses of Psalm 1. To be like a tree planted by streams of water means to be rooted in the Word of God, in prayer and in communion with Him. These streams are the source of life that sustains us, even when the world around us feels like a desert. Fruit in its season. The promise of bearing fruit doesn't mean immediate success or instant riches. For Helena, the fruit came in the form of impacting the lives of others, finding inner peace and seeing her daughter return home to faith. For us, whether we are in our 40s, 50s, or 60s, it's a reminder that fruit may take time, but it always comes in God's perfect timing. Whether it's the restoration of a relationship, healing from a loss, or the discovery of a new purpose. Leaves that do not wither. The leaves represent vitality, hope, and strength that does not fade. Even during storms, unemployment, grief, disappointments, those planted in God do not lose their essence. Helena faced fierce winds, but her faith kept her green and alive. Whatever He does shall prosper. Prosperity, in the context of this psalm, isn't about accumulating wealth, but about living a life of eternal significance. It's the success that comes from aligning our actions with God's purposes, like Helena did when she chose to teach, to love, and to persevere. This psalm invites you to reflect on the roots you are cultivating. Maybe you feel like your fruit is delayed, or your leaves are fragile, but God calls you to plant yourself near Him, to drink from His word, and to trust that He will sustain you. A reflection for the heart. If you, dear reader, have ever walked through deserts in life, and who hasn't, know that God invites you to be like the tree in Psalm 1:3. Plant your roots in His word. Drink from the water of His presence. The fruit may not come when you expect, but it will come. Your leaves may tremble in the storm, but they will not fall. And everything you do with faith and love will prosper, not in the eyes of the world perhaps, but in the eyes of God. Helena learned that true prosperity is living with purpose, with firm roots in God. And you, where are your roots today? How about planting yourself a little closer to God's river and discovering the fruit He has prepared for your season? May your journey be like Helena's, filled with hope, vibrant with life, and blessed with the peace that only God can give.